Ask any questions.
No, feel free to, please. Yeah, I don't know.
This is the time like yesterday. It didn't go too
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Chair Janelle Wilkins. Happy post-crossover. I want to first start by thanking all of my committee members for the hard work over the entire session. We've passed over 100 bills in this committee and worked really hard to assess what should move. So I'm excited about this second half. And today we are starting our bill hearings. The date is March 24th. All bill sponsors, we do allow unlimited testimony for the bill sponsors. Many of the bills are sponsor only if it's in a similar form to a bill that we've heard before or if it was cross-filed. So we appreciate your flexibility and your short testimony before us this morning. I am very excited to welcome the Senate President as our first sponsor presenting House Bill 767. Welcome, Mr. President.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. A pleasure to be here with you all. Happy post-crossover, the fun period. We get a little bit of a reprieve, hopefully, for a couple days, and then the full chaos is in full swing. So, pleased to be here with you all, and pleased to be with you, Madam Chair, and your new leadership in this in this capacity. It's a pleasure working with you and to all members of the committee. So, thank you all, and look forward to the next 3 weeks navigating all of the interesting issues that are ahead. So. That said, today I have before you Senate Bill 767, credit for commercial buildings rented to small businesses. Instead of getting into the details very briefly, we'll set the picture of what we're trying to do here. I think all of us have probably had this experience. 2 different streets. One has full, all of the storefronts are full. There is bustling activity. There's people walking on the street. There's cafes. There's this sense of liveliness, activity, fullness, kind of the beauty of life. And then the alternative, where you're walking down the street and every other storefront is vacant, and it is quiet, and it is low energy. Obviously, we know situation number 1 is what we want to achieve. The challenge that we've seen in the with globalization, with the changes in the way that we consume, the way that we deal with different businesses, the increase of online shopping, many of our main streets and arts and entertainment districts have fallen into a place where they have really struggled to maintain full rates of leased storefronts. And so the objective here is to provide local jurisdictions another tool in their toolbox to provide a tax credit to those entities that are managing properties in main streets to find ways to reduce rent to keep small businesses in our main streets flourishing, open, and thriving. We know that main streets and arts and entertainment districts are some of the core economic drivers of activity in almost all of our communities. And so the bill before you allows a local jurisdiction to pull this tool out of the tool belt so that they can target their main streets to help create that vibrancy and economic activity again. And so just will note in the Senate there was an amendment that changed the definition of main streets. It added it, so the goal was to be more inclusive instead of just the traditional statutory definition of main street. It broadened the scope so that there would be a greater ability to apply it in more jurisdictions. Again, it's enabling, so at the end of the day, it will be the local jurisdiction that would set up specific criteria or targets or any type of local preference and priorities that they would have to refill their main street locations. So with that, thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. Would urge a favorable report.
Thank you so much, Mr. Senate President, for bringing this bill. Questions? We will start with Delegate Buckle.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon. I really think the bill is a great idea. Cities such as the one you live in, the one that I live in, that are much older cities, have a hard time sometimes revitalizing themselves for the 21st century because most of their infrastructure and a lot of their buildings were built in the 1800s, early 1900s. It's enabling only. Does it define for the localities that choose to adopt it who would be the small businesses? What are the parameters of the credit, or does it allow them a pretty broad discretion?
It doesn't, and the goal was to have full discretion. The theory was that kind of the local government, though local governments would know best what is best for their main streets and what type of industries or types of businesses would be most attractive.
And does it touch the state property tax? You know, there's a little section of the property tax that goes to the state. Does it allow us to sort of piggyback that credit along with the locals, or is it just the local section of the property tax only that would be impacted?
That is an excellent question. It is just the local, but would certainly be open to the wisdom of the committee if the thought was to on state as well, if there were room.
Thank you. I appreciate the idea.
Thank you, Delegate. Let's go to Delegate Hartman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. President, for being here. Question is kind of along the same line of, let's say, taxes. So isn't it so that the Senate passed a bill that would exempt taxes on bullion?
On bullion?
On bullion.
Oh, this is
That sounds
Senator
like
from District
another
7
bill.
did in fact have a bill about gold bullion. That's funny.
Thank you for your work in the
I
Senate.
thought this was the bill hearing. I thought this was the bill hearing on House Bill 767, but.
If there were a bullion shop on a main street, I think this is the bill.
I love it. I love it. Way to tie that in, Delegate. Any other questions on Senate Bill 767? All right, seeing none, thank you so much,
Thank you all.
Mr.
Have a wonderful
President.
day. Appreciate you.
Thank you. That ends the bill hearing on Senate Bill 767. I am just going down my list. Is there anyone here for Senator Beidle? All right.
Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins, Vice Chair Feldmark, and members of the House Ways and Means Committee. My name is Zach Tipton. I am a staffer for Chair Beidle. Thank you for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 247, Biotechnology Investment Incentive Tax Credit Conversion to Grant Program. SB 247 is the cross-file of House Bill 400 heard by this committee on February 12th. SB 247 modernizes Maryland's biotech investment incentive by simplifying access for individual investors, making the program more effective and competitive, and strengthening support for venture capital attraction to the state's growing life sciences sector. We worked with the Comptroller's Office and investors on the bill to convert BIITC to a grant program, removing structural barriers, providing faster and more reliable benefits to investors, and making Maryland a more compelling place for early-stage biotech funding. Currently, BIITC operates as an income tax credit, meaning investors must file a Maryland tax return to benefit. Many investors, especially those new to Maryland life sciences, find the process opaque or difficult to navigate, and some simply don't claim the credit because the complexity dissuades them. By converting the tax credit to a direct grant, SB 247 ensures that the incentive reaches investors without requiring them to offset tax liability first. This shift makes the benefit available to a broader pool of investors, including those with little or no Maryland tax liabilities, which can lower barriers to participation. Grants can be dispersed directly by Commerce within a defined timeframe, in contrast to tax credits, whose value is realized only after tax filing and processing cycles. Venture capital firms often make investment decisions based on certainty of returns and simplicity of incentives. A grant that is quickly available and straightforward to access is more attractive than a tax credit that depends on individual investor tax situations. By making the state incentive more usable, SB 247 can help heighten Maryland's competitiveness relative to other states that offer direct incentives or simpler investment programs. This bill passed unanimously as amended by the Budget and Taxation Committee in the Senate and unanimously within the Senate. I appreciate your consideration of SB 247 and respectfully request a favorable report on SB 247.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Are there any questions? Seeing no questions, that ends the bill here on House Bill 247. Colleagues, I will switch up the order and prioritize senators who I see in the room. Going in the order that I have here, we will take Senator West next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, or Madam Chair. It's so nice to see you at that desk. I'm used to seeing other Madam Chairs, or previously. And it's also great to be back in this committee and see so many old friends as well as some newer friends, even though I've been out of this House for the past 8 years. Why don't I present Senate Bill 30 first, since it comes chronologically first of my two. Is that okay? Or would you prefer me to present the other bill? Okay. So Senate Bill 30 authorizes the Baltimore County government to exempt the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge at 730 Wampler Road in Middle River from county property taxes, beginning in fiscal year 2027. It's merely an enabling bill. The county council will have to make the final decision whether or not to grant the property tax exception, assuming that this bill passes. This lodge owns property that's the subject of the bill. It's a big part of the community in eastern Baltimore County. It hosts numerous annual events, conducts toy drives twice a year, allows the Baltimore County Police Tactical Unit to use its facilities to operate in critical situations, even when little advance notice is given. So this property tax exemption will be well deserved. The Baltimore County Senate delegation voted favorably on Senate Bill 30 on February 23rd, and there is a Senate delegation letter included in the bill file. The Senate passed the bill unanimously, 43-0. The House also, the House cross-file is House Bill 211. It passed the Baltimore County delegation 18-0. Excuse me, this committee 18-0. There is a delegation letter on the cross-file in this committee's file, and the House bill passed the House 126-1. So I'm hopeful that this committee will pass the Senate version of this bill, even as it passed the House cross-file. I'd be happy to accept any questions.
Any questions? Okay, seeing none, that ends the bill hearing on House Bill 30, Senate Bill 30. And let's go to your next bill, Senate Bill 163.
163. Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill passed the Senate unanimously, and the only change was the addition of a co-sponsor, Senator McCray. So the purpose of this seemingly complicated but actually quite simple bill, which consists of a single sentence, is merely to clarify Maryland tax law regarding the treatment of foreign earned income that is presumably taxed in the foreign country where it's earned and is already excluded from federal taxation under Section 911 of the Internal Revenue Code. Specifically, Senate Bill 163 clarifies that this foreign earned income will not be taxed in Maryland either. The fiscal note clearly lays out the issue. It notes that in its 2024 decision in Cosgrove versus Controller, the Appellate Court of Maryland explicitly noted that Maryland law is unclear as to whether Maryland income tax must be paid on foreign earned income. The court further noted that the General Assembly has previously understood that federal exclusions for foreign earned income also apply in Maryland. Now, in the Cosgrove case, the Maryland controller acceded to the taxpayer's position and paid him the refund he sought with interest. The fiscal note to this bill states, quote, "The Comptroller's Office has advised the Department of Legislative Services that the Comptroller's position is that the addition modification under Maryland law does not apply to foreign earned income within the meaning of IRC Section 911. Close quotes. Thus, this bill merely codifies the Comptroller's interpretation of existing law, and accordingly, the bill will have no fiscal impact on the state of Maryland. So this bill merely resolves the ambiguity identified in the Cosgrove case directly and narrowly. It does not create a new exclusion. It does not expand eligibility. It does not reduce existing federal limitations. Instead, it aligns Maryland law with the federal definition of foreign earned income under Section 11 of the Internal Revenue Code and makes explicit that such income is not subject to the state add-back provision. This approach promotes fairness, consistency, and predictability in Maryland's tax system. Clear tax statutes benefit both taxpayers and the state. They reduce unnecessary disputes. In other words, no more Cosgrove cases. They limit administrative burden. They ensure that tax policy reflects legislative intent. Senate Bill 163 provides that clarity. I appreciate the committee's consideration of the bill. Happy to answer any questions about it.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you for your time and thank you for the bill. That ends the hearing on Senate Bill 163.
Thank you very
Next
much.
up- Thank you. Next up, Senator Zucker. This is Senate Bill 765.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, distinguished colleagues of the Ways and Means Committee. For the record, Craig Zucker here presenting Senate Bill 765, which is in the same posture of House Bill 1148 that you passed recently. Madam Chair, this is the first bill that I've ever cross-filed with Ann Kaiser. So if this doesn't pass, I'm going to be in big trouble. Unless, Bernice Miracle North, I'm looking at you for help here. Other than that, happy to answer any questions. And if I have any questions, I might phone a friend. But anyway.
Wonderful. Well, welcome. I'm surprised this is the first bill with her.
Isn't that
That's
amazing?
awesome.
Just,
Yes,
yeah, it's
yes.
cool.
Well, we did pass this bill. Delegate Eversole, go ahead.
Who is this Ann Kaiser you speak of, sir?
She is an absolute legend and expert on airs, apparently.
Yes, very much so. All right, seeing no other questions, thank you, Senator. That ends the
Thank
bill
you.
here on Senate Bill 765.
Thank you.
It's going to take me a while to get used to saying Senate bill. All right, next up, Senator Folden. Senate Bill 328.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, esteemed colleagues of Ways and Means, before you today is Senate Bill 328, and for the record, I am Senator William Folden representing the 4th Legislative District. SB 328, this bill makes changes to the local options for property tax credit for disabled or fallen public safety officers by expanding eligibility to disabled public safety officers who have died regardless of cause of death while in service. Under current law, these individuals must have died as a result of employment as a law enforcement or correctional officer or while in active fire, rescue service, or emergency medical service. This is enabling legislation only. Each county can adopt their own rules and regs, and this will also transfer over to, the major part of this is that it would allow for newly acquired dwellings in the amount that reduces the property taxes owed on the newly acquired dwelling by the same proportion as the credit reduced the property taxes on the former dwelling. So they are allowed to actually move but still maintain the original credit but not increase. So with that, I would ask for a favorable report, and I'm happy to take any questions for SB 328, and I'll turn it over to my panel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For those who don't know me, I've been gone for 10 years, so there's quite a few new faces here. I was in the House for 10 years. This original bill, this is actually an add-on to the original bill that we had back in the early 2000s. Really what we're looking to do also is to take care of the spouses of the fallen officers and the injured officers. Well, I'm sorry, I'm former Delegate John Cluster. It's been a while. Anyway, what we found out was when we put the original bill, we left the spouses out or significant others out, and we're finding now that some of the officers are dying. I've gotten a couple phone calls from their wives saying, or their husbands saying, hey, my husband passed away, and now I got hit with this big tax bill that we've been getting a break for all these years. This committee passed it, like I said, back in the day. So this just adds to that. It is enabling legislation. There are 14 counties and Baltimore City that are already doing this, including Prince George's County, Montgomery County, Baltimore County, Anne Arundel County, a few counties on the shore. So a lot of counties are already doing it, not everybody. It is enabling legislation, so the counties have to do it. I know in Baltimore County, I have a bipartisan group of county council people ready to put this in to take care of our spouses. In the past, there's been misconceptions. This is going to cost a lot of money. We're already paying it. It's no cost to the state. All we're doing is adding the spouses. When the husband or wife dies and the spouse was the police officer, they're just extending that tax credit to them. That's all it is. So I don't know where the information came that it's going to cost. I think the previous fiscal note was $428,000 for all 14 counties in Baltimore City. You do the math, it's less than $30,000 a county if you do it. If you look at the fiscal note, Montgomery County itself has a fiscal note of $30,477, which is pennies compared to, what their budget is. So I request a favorable report out of the committee. It passed in the Senate unanimously. In fact, every committee member signed on to it after Senator Folden put it in. Every member of the committee signed on to it. And it passed out completely without an opposition in the Senate floor. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And I did see a Daniel Ficus was also signed up.
I'll move. You stay. There you go, Dan.
Madam Chair, committee members, my name is Daniel Ficus. I'm the past president of Baltimore City Fraternal Order of Police and a board member of the Baltimore Retired Police Benevolent Association. And our organization fully supports SB 328. The men and women in our organization are vested into the Baltimore Fire and Police Pension System. The relevance of mentioning the Fire and Police Pension System is that we currently have 898 recipients of line-of-duty disability benefits. That equates to about 18% of our retirees. Upon their demise, their spouse will only get 50% of the pension of the retiree. That number right now, the average annual beneficiary benefit for our retirees, fire and police, is only $23,500. Again, that's $23,500. I believe that's just shy of being under poverty. Hence, the importance of having this legislation passed, that they can give these widows and the cohabitants of our disabled veterans, our disabled officers, that benefit, so they can maintain and retain their property that they're living in now. With that, we request a favorable report on SB 328.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your time and testimony. Are there any questions for any of the witnesses? Okay, seeing none, that ends the bill here on Senate Bill 328. Thank you for your time. Senator Brooks, I almost didn't see you back there. Come on up.
I'm so short, right?
Senate Bill 9.
Chair Wilkins, Vice Chair Feldmark, and plenty of folks who I came in with, and some newbies as well. Nice seeing everybody, and nice to be back over in the House. Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before you on Senate Bill 9. That's the sales and use tax-free holiday for Veterans Day. This bill designates Veterans Day as a tax-free holiday for vets, men, women who all have donned that uniform and served and protect this country. Veterans have sacrificed a lot for the country, and and they do things to help strengthen the community. Being a vet, being actually a Vietnam vet, I can testify from personal experience what it feels like to come back home and not be welcomed. This bill does something not only symbolic, but it demonstrates that, we care about the folks who have gone and protected our freedoms, and this is a nice way to at least allow them to feel as though that particular effort was appreciated. The bill that we submitted, it offers a $2,000 credit on purchases on Veterans Day to acknowledge this effort. And the bill that came out of the House modified that some, but I'm hoping we can get together to express something that's going to be meaningful to the veterans. The fiscal note on this is extremely low. We've got about 360,000 vets in the state of Maryland, and we're talking about the 6% of 2,000. That's just $120. So we're not talking about a whole lot of money there, but I think this would be a meaningful way to acknowledge some level of appreciation for those of us who have donned that uniform and made sacrifices for this country. So I would really appreciate getting a favorable report on this particular bill, Senate Bill 9. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Questions? Let's start with Delegate Ebersol.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good bill. Nice to see you, Senator.
Same here.
So if it's $2,010, the thing well, you can't say me because I'm not a veteran, but let's assume I am for a second, pretend, in the big pretend. And it's $2,010, do I get no tax break at all, or do I get the break on the first $2,000 of that purchase?
Yeah, you would get the tax break on the 2,000. That's the ceiling, yeah.
But it's
and that other $10 you would have to pay that out of your pocket. Or
But the extra $10
means.
doesn't take me out of the game entirely.
It won't take you out of the game.
Okay,
No,
thank you. That was my question earlier when the bill came by us, and that's the answer I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a ceiling, so yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Delegate. Let's go to Delegate Long.
Delegate Long.
How are you, sir? I
Very
just
good,
want to
sir.
welcome you home.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We came in together. Yes.
Wonderful. Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, that ends the hearing on Senate Bill 9. Senator Brooks also has Senate Bill 58. We'll begin that hearing.
Thank again, Madam Chair and Madam Vice Chair. And for the record, I'm still Ben Brooks, representing the 10th District in Baltimore County. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before you on Senate Bill 58 as the property tax for retail service stations conversion. This bill is a cross-file with HB 161, which has already passed this committee and the full House. SB 58 is slightly different in posture. I'm supportive of the thoughtful committee amendments adopted on HB 161 and respectfully accept them as they apply to SB 58. The amendments make two important clarifications. First, they expand the definition of nuisance businesses to better address the problematic properties. And second, they ensure that the taxes may not be granted unless any underground storage tanks on the property have been properly closed with applicable standards. Together, these changes strengthen the bill and help ensure it is implemented responsibly and effectively. Accordingly, I respect a favorable report on SB 58 as aligned with HB 161. And I'll entertain any questions.
Thank you so much for the bill, Senator. Any questions? All right, seeing none.
Thank you.
Thank you. That ends the bill hearing on Senate Bill 58. Next up, we will take Senator Quarterman. The first bill is Senate Bill 497 on behalf of the Washington County Senators.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, colleagues. Senator Paul Quarterman representing District 2, today representing Washington County Senators. So Senate Bill 497 is a bill you heard is House Bill 846. It is in regards to the city of Hagerstown and the Hagerstown Field House and multi-use sports facility. This bill passed unanimously in this committee. It passed the House floor. We have bipartisan unanimous support from our delegation as well as letters from our city. We would ask for a favorable report.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions? Seeing none, that ends the bill hearing on Senate Bill 497. We'll go now to Senate Bill 501.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Again, for the record, Senator Paul Quarterman representing District 2. Today here representing the Washington County Senators. Senate Bill 501 is in regards to a tax credit to Platoon 22. Again, this bill was heard by this committee as House Bill 783. It received unanimous support from this committee, also unanimous support on the House floor. As such, we would request a favorable report.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you for your time. That ends the bill hearing on House Bill 501. The next person on my list is Senator Simonaire with 2 bills. We'll start with Senate Bill 109.
Hi there. Thank you. Start with 109. Okay, for the record, Senator Brian Simonaire. This is my 20th year, and I'm retiring, so this is the last year over here. Senate Bill 109, this is a local bill revising Anne Arundel County's deferment of property taxes. It's identical to House Bill 606 that passed the House, and I ask for your favorable consideration.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions on Senate Bill 109? Seeing none, that ends the bill hearing on Senate Bill 109. We'll go now to Senate Bill 194.
I just have one witness. Thank you. Senator Brian Simonaire. This is Senate Bill 194, Space Force Revisions. And I appreciate the support of the Department of Veterans and Military Family on this consensus legislation. As you know, back in 2019, we added Space Force to the Armed Forces. And then subsequently, here in the General Assembly, there was legislation that went and found where they listed the different branches and they added Space Force to it. Last year, I put a modernization bill in for the military packages, and one of the things we did is we took those lists out and we put a term, armed forces, in a centralized location, and then everybody just referenced that, so that if they create a new branch next year, we wouldn't have to update our laws because there's a centralized location and it goes to federal law. That being said, there was some additional terms that kind of got past me last year, and there is a specific term in federal laws for active service of military, naval, and air service. That's a defined term. Since then, they've updated it to add Space Force, and that's basically what this bill does. It adds Space Force to that definition. It also puts it in our centralized location, and then it also simplifies and uses centralized terms such as veteran in other places. So again, it references that central location instead of defining it all throughout our laws. No opposition, no fiscal note. I'd appreciate your favorable consideration.
Thank you, Chair Wilkins and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in favor of Senator Simonaire's bill. I'm Dave Dragic, a retired Army Colonel and Legislative Director of the Maryland Military Coalition. SB 0194 is a continuation of the centralization and modernization of Maryland's code that was started during the 2025 session of the General Assembly by Senator Simonaire. This bill adds the Space Force, which was created in 2019, and updates terms further closely linking Maryland code with federal code. With the enactment of this bill, members and veterans of the Space Force will be provided with the same privileges related to the income and property taxes as the members and veterans of the other armed forces currently enjoy. And we note that SB 0194 was passed unanimously by the Senate, and the Maryland Military Coalition strongly supports SB 0194 and asks for a favorable report from the committee. And we would like to thank Senator Simonaire for sponsoring this legislation and appreciate his leadership on this issue.
Madam Chair, can I just say one other thing? When I mentioned the modernization bill, I was partnering with our House partners, and I see one of them right there, Delegate Patterson, who did an awesome job. So I just wanted to publicly recognize her.
Well, thank you for the bill and thank you for the presentation. Delegate Patterson with a question.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair. It's not a question. It's just an open thank you to Senator Simonaire. I know you've cited that you are leaving after this session. My request is that you will continue as a private citizen to offer legislation for us to sponsor. What you've done is phenomenal in terms of veterans, recognition, but more importantly, their families. And so it's been my pleasure to have the opportunity to sponsor multiple bills with you. So don't relax too much.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your friendship.
Just continue to do what you're doing. And again, congratulations for what you're doing for the military families.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate, and thank you, Senator, for your service. I'm not sure if you'll be before our committee again this session, but it's wonderful to see you, and congratulations. Are there any additional questions? Seeing none.
Thank you.
That ends the bill hearing on Senate Bill 194. Next up, Senator Wallstreicher. Senate Bill 356.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. I know we're moving very fast today, and that's a good thing. But let me just slow it down to congratulate you, Madam Chair. This is my first time in front of this committee in this current configuration. And so to you and to the Vice Chair and the new members of the committee, I really appreciate your having me. Senate Bill 356 has no cross-file, so this is the first time you're hearing it this year. It has passed the Senate previously under both Senator Elfreth and myself, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but some of you have not heard the bill before. It passed the Senate unanimously in both Budget and Tax and through the entire chamber. Giving birth to a stillborn child is one of the most traumatic things that a parent can go through. And in addition to that experience, there are genuine and real financial costs. Not only are stillbirth parents out of pocket for huge items they can no longer use, such as cribs and car seats, they now have the unexpected burden of burial costs during the most difficult time in their lives. And I've spoken to most members of this committee about this legislation, and I've received incredibly favorable feedback, and for that, you have my thanks. But a minority of members have also expressed a concern, and I just wanted to address that concern head on during today's hearing. And the concern I've heard is that there could be a slippery slope here, that there would be a flood of sympathetic folks who bring in bills in future years. And so I just wanted to talk about that while we're here. Because for me, in every hypothetical that I can think of, sympathetic constituents of ours already receive tax benefits under the Maryland Code. Let me give you two examples just to kind of get your brains moving. Imagine a child with cancer, that you have a child with cancer. Under Maryland's tax code, if the cost of that child's medical bills is above 7.5% of your AGI, you can then deduct all the excess medical costs above that amount. So they already receive a tax benefit. Let me give you another hypothetical. Imagine that you have a child who is struck by a drunk driver, and you obtain an attorney and you sue the violator who killed your child. And you sue for economic damages and non-economic damages, and you win the case and you recover that amount. Under Maryland's tax code, that recovery of both economic and non-economic damages are not taxable at all. And so you know I'm a lawyer. I'm trained very well to never ask a question I don't know the answer to, but I feel so strongly about this bill, I'm going to do that here. If you, after I'm done, can think of a hypothetical that's sympathetic, where that person doesn't already receive some benefit under our tax code, please ask me about it, because I don't think that the slippery slope that folks are worried about is going to occur. And we know that's to be true because 8 other states have already passed this law. Blue states like Connecticut and Minnesota, red states like North Dakota and Arkansas, and in none of those 8 states has there been a flood of future bills from sympathetic constituents who have other forms of trauma that they want to get some kind of tax benefit from. It just hasn't happened. Because you've heard the bill in previous years, today is sponsor only, but I did want to recognize some incredible folks behind me. We have a number of stillbirth parents who have experienced what we've described today, and Madam Chair, with your permission, I was hoping they could just stand and be recognized momentarily, if that was okay with you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much for being here. Let me conclude with this. The stillbirth survivors behind me are not asking for a new benefit. They are not asking for a special exception. They don't want to be treated differently. Indeed, they are asking for the opposite. The tax code, in almost every conceivable circumstance, provides relief for those who have experienced trauma. Please, please, please include these stillbirth parents in that list. On behalf of the stillbirth survivors behind me, I ask you for a favorable report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator, for bringing this important bill. We do recognize the families that came here today, and thank you for being here and for continuing to advocate despite the circumstances and what you're dealing with. So we do appreciate your time. Do we have any questions, Delegate Vogel?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator, for this bill. Madam Chair, would it be okay if, I would just love to hear the story of one of you all standing there, just briefly, if that would be okay?
Delegate, this is a sponsor-only
okay.
bill.
Okay,
Thank
you,
you.
Madam Chair.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'll let my colleagues go first. Delegate Hornberger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is a very important issue. I have a constituent who unfortunately went through this, and her insurance company labeled the stillbirth as a termination of convenience. They did so because that alleviated them from having to pay for the procedures and such that were associated with the stillborn pregnancy, all of the fees that had led up to that. My question to you is, would a break like this, because they weren't facing all of these financial challenges now that they had not accounted for, that they had to pay, would something like this give them the opportunity or the ability to have a proper burial, like you've described here, in the advent of the unfortunate turn with the insurance company?
It would, yes. So part of the reason that folks are looking for this tax benefit is to deal with the financial hardship that comes with an unexpected burial.
Yep.
Could I raise an issue that is implied in your question, although not directly? Senator Elfreth, when she was here and felt so passionately about this issue, wanted to make sure that this issue did not touch another and unrelated controversial issue that we dealt with on the floor recently when we passed the budget. Presumably the House will deal with the same issue. And she spoke with pro-life and pro-choice organizations to make sure that this doesn't accidentally provide rights or undue rights that are granted. And I've done the same in the past few years. And that's why we have, neither party supporting or opposing the bill, because this bill does not have anything to do with pregnancies that are terminated by choice.
Right.
Stillbirth is a medically defined term.
Yep.
It is tightly defined. The Maryland Department of Health already has a definition, and this bill would only apply to families that meet that definition.
Yeah, thank you for your thoughtfulness on this bill.
Delegate Hartman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate you bringing this bill. It's not a question. My wife and I went through this years ago, and the expenses are real. The funeral home, the grave, it's real. So thank you.
No, that's exactly right. Listen, I have aging parents, and I know they won't be with me forever. It's always difficult to bury people during the grieving process, but with parents or people who are older, oftentimes it's not unexpected. Burying a child is hard enough. Doing it under circumstances that were completely unexpected, especially when you're already out of pocket for other expenses, when you anticipated a live birth, it's just got to be one of the most challenging things in our lives. And listen, I don't know how many of you are relatively new parents, but the cost of anticipating a live birth, what a crib now costs, what a car seat now costs, it's incredible. And then obviously the burial expenses on top.
Thank you again, Senator, for bringing this bill. And I do want to mention for the record, since it came up, that we do have a policy in this committee since the very first day of bill hearings that if we've heard a bill before or now that we're after crossover, if we've heard the cross-file that it's sponsor only. So all of the bills today, except 2, have been sponsor only, and I do not want the families who came here to feel excluded or that we're closing out their voices. We appreciated this full bill hearing last legislative session, and we welcome any written testimony. We welcome meetings and conversations. So I do want you to know that you're welcomed in this committee, and we appreciate your advocacy, but that's just our policy. But I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Something, I really think this bill is important, but one thing that has kind of nagged at me around the format of this legislation is it being in the form of a tax credit, because I would think that a family would need the funds right away, rather than waiting perhaps till the end of the year or into the next year to be able to access the funds and the support. So I wanted to better understand why you decided to make it into a tax credit as opposed to like a grant or something that might be more immediately available.
That's a wonderful question. So the answer is because tax preparers, which most folks use, or tax software provide a prompt for this situation. And so I have pitched the idea that has been floating around with advocates that there be some type of grant or burial assistance available. And I think everything I've heard from stillbirth parents is that they really appreciate that idea. But that there are too many stillbirth parents who would not know about the availability of the grant, whereas a tax deduction or tax credit provides the opportunity for prompting either by software or by a tax preparer. Or if you're doing the tax yourself, you'll just come to that portion of the tax. And so there is strong concern about the marketing of a grant program, that people who go through this terrible experience would not learn about that grant possibility. There is an equity concern associated with that. So parents who have the time for the advocacy that you've heard here tend to be more affluent, more connected individuals, and maybe they learn about the grant through this experience or you know, from others. But those who feel less connected to the legislative process, who are often less affluent, come from marginal communities, would have a more difficult time learning about the availability of the grant. Whereas those folks would have the ability to access the tax credit when preparing their taxes, again, either themselves, through a preparer, or prompted by software. And so the sense from speaking with the advocates, and again, it's not my call, it's theirs, has been the tax credit is important as a matter of fairness and equity, and would be more widely distributed to those who need it.
Thank you, that's very helpful. Any other questions? Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is a question actually just prompted by that last answer. As you're speaking, Senator, about the equity issue, I just wanted to confirm, is this refundable for parents who don't maybe have a tax liability?
So I believe so.
Okay.
And if they, yes, the answer is yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, that ends the bill hearing on
Thank you,
Senate
Madam
Bill
Chair.
356. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you to the families who also came. We appreciate it. All right, I don't think I see any other senators in the room, so we'll start calling the bills that are coming from members of staff. And actually, we do have a departmental. Is the Deputy Commerce Secretary here, April Doss, to present Senate Bill 25?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm April Doss. I'm the Deputy Secretary.
And just in case, I'm sorry, you can bring that mic a little closer. Thank you.
Apologies. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm April Doss. I'm the Deputy Secretary for Policy and Stakeholder Engagement at the Department of Commerce. And with me is my colleague, Abigail McKnight, who is a program manager for our tax credit programs. And we are here to speak with you about Senate Bill 25. the Buy Maryland Cybersecurity Tax Credit. This is a departmental bill which would make the program more effective and increase utilization. This is the cross-file of House Bill 290, which this committee heard back in January. The Buy Maryland Cybersecurity Tax Credit is designed to promote the cybersecurity industry in Maryland by helping small businesses purchase cybersecurity technologies and services from Maryland cybersecurity companies to protect business information. It also promotes cyber resilience across industries by encouraging Maryland businesses to purchase the cybersecurity products and services that will help protect their businesses from cyber incidents. As you know, cyber incidents can be harmful to businesses in a number of ways, including monetary costs, reputational harm, and regulatory risk, and in some cases can put at risk sensitive personal information of a business's employees, partners, and customers. By encouraging Maryland businesses to invest in cyber products and services, this program advances the cyber industry in Maryland and promotes cyber resilience across the state. This passed unanimously in the Senate. We're happy to discuss any questions about the changes that this would make, but the purpose of this is to increase utilization of the existing tax credit program. We request a favorable report on Senate Bill 25 and happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much for this bill and your time. Are there any questions, Delegate Young?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Deputy Secretary, for bringing the bill. I do have a couple questions. The first one pertains to a change in definition for qualified seller. You changed it from minority-owned and women-owned to is owned by an individual or group of individuals who belong to a group that has historically been deprived of access to normal economic or financial resources. Just wanted to get some clarification on the rationale behind that change. That would be on the bill, page 2.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to speak to that, Adam? No. We'll have to come back to you on the reasoning behind that wording change.
All right, appreciate that candor. The second question pertains to a change in the definition of qualified buyer, where we delete fewer than 50 employees as a requirement. And I understand the bill. I mean, the tax credit has been underutilized. I get that. I think it was what 10% or so, maybe 13% is being used. But I do see, a value in making sure there's this carve out, not only because it deletes that piece, but then you further delete the 25% requirement that goes to the qualified buyer. And so I'm concerned that if you remove the qualification of it being a smaller business, at least from a standpoint of employees, and then we remove the requirement that the 25%, which would be 1 million, goes to those smaller businesses, and we increase the amount that each person can use up to 1 million, that larger businesses, smaller amount of larger businesses then uses the tax credit up. And then the smaller businesses, which I think was the initial point of the tax credit, might get left out. So I was just wanted to hear your perspective on why, or where y'all are with regard to why that was changed.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think with respect to qualified buyer, that increase from 50 to 100 employees for the size of a qualified buyer was intended, as you pointed out, to increase utilization of the tax credit. And let me see if I can.
You said from 50 to 100? I don't see 100. I just see a removal of the 50.
Oh, yeah, qualified buyer would mean any entity that has fewer than 100 employees in the state and is required to file an income tax return in the state. So that would be on page 2, line 15.
I'm looking at the third reader out of the Senate, and I don't have that, but we can come back to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Abby, do you want to speak to the cumulative effect of the changes?
Well, I think increasing it to 100 employees, we've got to.
And if you can say, I know that you're here for questions, if you could just state your name for the record.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Abigail McKnight. think we're increasing it to 100. Most of the applications, as you said, the program's underutilized. So if we open it to more businesses, even if they're, 50 to 75 employees, I think it will open up the pool and get more businesses involved in the program. I think that's what we're ultimately trying to do. I've worked on this program since 2018, and I've seen an uptick recently, but I do get asked a lot of questions about why is it set at 50? So I think it will help with the program.
Yeah, let's just clarify that 100 piece. I think that helps alleviate my concern. Again, I understand you trying to expand it for utilization, so I get that. I just don't see the 100, but we can figure that out at another time. One final piece, Madam Chair. There's a piece that you also delete with regard to a panel of experts that was in the original legislation. I'm not sure if that was ever done. I just want to know, did that ever come to be? It was supposed to be with you all in TEDCO.
Back in 2018, when I first started on the program, we did reach out and try to get a panel of 3 experts. I was in receipt of their resumes, but because the program was so underutilized, we didn't really need their services. And internally, we do have a program cybersecurity director that we do reach out to assess our applications that we receive. So we actually took it in-house because it was so underutilized, because some of the experts that we tried to get as the panel, they wanted fees. So because it was already underutilized, we decided to stay within commerce.
All right, thank you so much for taking my questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate. Let's go to Delegate Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could you remind me, if you remember, are these services already exempt from the tech tax, or were they included in the tech tax?
I'm not familiar with the tech tax.
Okay. Then the other piece is where it went from, and kind of along the lines of my colleagues' questions, where the single qualified seller may not exceed, now it's up to $1 million from the 200,000.
Yeah, so when we receive applications, they can go up to 400,000, and then they get 50% of the tax credit, which would be a cap at 200,000. So we're asking to increase that. With my knowledge of the program, there's a few sellers out there that want the cap raising. They do go out and promote the program, they market the program, but they're capped at 200,000 in credits. So we would like to up that.
Okay, maybe you can walk me through if something's being underutilized, but we're lifting cap. So maybe you can walk me through that at some point.
Underutilized overall, we want more businesses to participate, but some of the actual sellers are reaching their cap. They've gone out and marketed the program themselves, but they're limited. So they might have a number of buyers coming to 2 or 3 particular sellers, but then they're capped.
Okay, and it needed to be up to $1 million? I mean, that's a big jump from the 200,000 to the $1 million.
Well, if they apply for $1 million, then they'll get 500,000 in credits. So we're doubling it for the people that are coming in, like the sellers that are coming in and doing well in Maryland.
Okay.
And I think to add to my colleagues' comments, the intention behind that would be to expand utilization by buyers, because there's both the buyer side of this program and the seller side of this program. And so where sellers are finding that they are limited, that's making the program less available for buyers.
Yeah, so we have a listing on our website of all the sellers, and then buyers come in and pick their seller, but then there's a cap on a seller that might be really promoting the program.
Okay.
So they're limited almost. So we'd like to raise the cap on the sellers and keep the business here in Maryland.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Any other questions? Seeing no other questions, that ends the bill hearing on Senate Bill 25. The next bill is Senate Bill 819, Senator Hayes. George Reith presenting.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. For the record, my name is George Reith, and I serve as Legislative Director to Senator Antonio Hayes. I'm here today to present Senate Bill 819. Senate Bill 819 is a judicial in rem tax foreclosure notice requirements bill. Senate Bill 819 is an exact replica to House Bill 1110 from Delegate Lewis, which was heard in this committee. Both bills passed unanimously through third reader in both sides. Senate Bill 819 updates the notice requirements that apply when a county or municipal corporation files a complaint for judicial and rent tax foreclosure on certain vacant and abandoned properties. Under current law, local jurisdictions must send notice by first class and certified mail when initiating a judicial foreclosure action. The bill replaces the current mail-based notice requirement with formal service of process in accordance with the Maryland rules, thus strengthening procedural compliance and ensuring consistency with civil litigation standards. By aligning the notice requirement with standard civil litigation procedures, Senate Bill 819 strengthens procedural compliance, enhances legal clarity, and ensures consistency across courts and jurisdictions. At the same time, it preserves due process protections and maintains the opportunity for property owners to cure delinquent taxes before judgment is entered. Senate Bill 819 aims to reduce administrative burden as well as providing clear statutory guidance to the courts. Most importantly, this legislation supported neighborhood revitalization efforts by improving the process for addressing vacant and unsafe properties and promoting the redevelopment and productive use of abandoned properties. For these reasons, I respectfully request a favorable report on Senate Bill 819.
Thank you for presenting the bill. Please be sure to let the senator know that I missed him in committee, but I know he let me know he had to run his own committee. So please give him my hellos. Do we have any questions? All right, seeing no questions, thank you, George. That ends the bill hearing on House Bill 819.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think we have heard all the bills for the day. This is our first day of Senate bill hearings. We're moving through pretty quickly. We won't do back room today. I know a number of us have another engagement. So with that said, unless there are any subcommittee announcements, we will adjourn for the day. Thank you and see everyone tomorrow.